What's going on, San Antonio? It is Friday, November 17th. My name is Mike Jimenez, and this is the Alamo City Sportscast coming at you again from the Alamo City, San Antonio, Texas, West Bexar County. Hope everyone's having a fantastic morning as we are maybe about, 6, 7, 8 hours away from the start of the weekend for many of us. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter right now. If you want to be part of the show, you can take part in our YouTube chat line, if you will. Chris Gonzalez already reaching out to us saying, what's up, everybody? Senior day at the Alamo Dome. That's right. Lots to get into today. Did you realize that ESPN is all about San Antonio today? Because on ESPN at 6:30, they're going to show the Sacramento Kings taking on your San Antonio Spurs at the Frostbank Center. And then if you moved on over to ESPN2, picture in picture, if you will, South Florida taking on UTSA at the Alamo Dome. Lots of sports going on over here in San Antonio. Lots to get into today. Obviously, we'll talk about the Spurs. We're going to talk about UTSA because just hovering over all that is the fact that head coach Jeff Traylor just got interviewed yesterday by Texas A&M for their head coaching position now that Jimbo Fisher is no longer there. A lot of UTSA fans right now are kind of on edge when it comes to this. Half of them saying, we get it, we understand. The other half saying, well, wait a minute. Didn't Jeff Traylor promise to be here for 10 years? Didn't he say that he had a plan, a vision for 10 years at UTSA? We're going to get into that as well. We'll get into the NFL. The Current put me on blast. What was that all about? I was refereeing basketball yesterday, and in between the games, I go to my phone because normally I don't go to my phone between games because normally there's maybe only like 5 minutes, but they put 15 minutes up on the clock. So I was like, okay, I guess I got an extra time to kind of rest a little bit between games. And I grabbed my phone and I looked and it was blowing up. Jeff Garcia from Locked On Spurs and Kent's 5 was just tweeting at me and messaging me over and over again. So I gave him a call. And he was cackling, laughing. It wasn't just a laugh. It was a full-on cackle that he was out there doing for me there. And he was like, you would not believe what's going on. You are getting roasted. And I said, what did I do today? Why am I getting roasted today? Why am I being put on blast? What did I do wrong? Well, apparently somebody at the Current wrote an article about how Spurs fans are kind of uneasy about the direction of the team right now and about head coach Greg Popovich. And they quoted me as saying something to the effect of Greg Popovich is like a rotten banana at this point in his career. I had said that on Wednesday's show. 24 hours later, it pops up on the Current and it becomes a thing on social media, and I get roasted. All I was doing was refereeing basketball at the time, man. That is what I was doing, but we'll get into that as well. Speaking of refereeing, I just posted a video of myself on Twitter, or X, if you will. I was refereeing basketball earlier this week, did a varsity game, also did another high school game on the same night that actually went into overtime. It was over 3 hours on the court refereeing these games. And I was going through my security video at home, my Vivint security system, and I found video of me getting out of my truck Monday night at 11 p.m., coming home from these games. And I look like an old man. You got to check out that video, man. I could not take a full step. I would say that every step I took was maybe 3 to 6 inches, and I just waddled all the way up my driveway into the house. Now, I felt better 5 minutes later because I got in the shower and the hot water kind of rejuvenated me. But on the drive home from Highlands, man, Highlands High School, I just tensed up, and it is absolutely brutal. But I did a couple of games, do a lot of varsity next week. The kids are out of school, but they're going to have varsity games in the mornings. So I've got several next week, so I'm excited about that. Tim Gonzalez asked, saying, what's good, Mike Jimenez? Lots of good college football this weekend. Yeah, we can get into that. Mike Baez saying, can't wait to hear about the San Antonio Current. Baez says they did that to me too about the Fred's t-shirt, the Spurs and Fred's Fish Fry t-shirt as well. Tim Gonzalez wants to get into the Michigan head coach being suspended for 3 games. That's what Harbaughs do. That's what Harbaughs do. Chris Gonzalez reaching out and saying, you look like Tony La Russa running last year. Thank you so much. That was a brutal walk that I had up the driveway. Absolutely brutal. Now, typically the show is produced by Joe Garcia, and I go back and forth with him, and we have guests and whatnot. But I am doing this podcast today from my kitchen table because Joe is training for a new job that he has, and he's unable to do the podcast. So instead of just going on hiatus for a couple of weeks, we decided to do the show from my kitchen, from my dining table. And you can see the kitchen in the background. This is my house. And welcome to my house. We have lots to get into today. Again, if you want to be part of the show, leave your comments on our YouTube chat line. We would be happy to kind of go into that. Joe might pop his head in and out. He might have 5-10 minutes. Might pop his head in. We'll get into that as well if he wants to take part in it. So let's go ahead and talk about the Current. I don't mind what the Current did yesterday, and a lot of people thought that they did me dirty. And did they put me on blast? Yes, they did. Was I used? Yes, I was. Was I looking for the attention? Because that is what everyone was asking on Twitter last night. They were saying, oh, well, Jimenez just wanted the attention. That's why he said what he said. I did not ask for the Current to do a story that revolved around one of my comments. I didn't do that. In fact, I did that comment on Wednesday, and it was a throwaway comment, man. It wasn't like the thesis of my take. I just basically said he's kind of like a rotten banana, something to that effect, paraphrased, if you will, and they ran with it. It's nice to know that the people from the Current are listening to this podcast and take part with it. You're more than happy to run with my takes. I welcome it, but I'm not asking for it. Okay, that is the thing. But it was funny because, like I said, I was in between games and my phone started blowing up. And I did this wrong thing where I turned on notifications on Twitter on my phone. Don't ever do that. You'll just get blown up all day long. And especially if you're getting roasted or cooked the way that I was being cooked. But let's talk about that. Do I apologize to Greg Popovich for what I said? No. Do I apologize to Spurs fans for what I said? No, I don't. Greg Popovich should not be the head coach of this team. And I don't understand why so many people are upset with that logic. He is 74 years old. Dude, I read an article earlier today, and you know how I was saying that he is the oldest head coach in the NBA right now? That's actually partially true. It is true, but the bigger part of the story is he's the oldest head coach in NBA history. And on top of that, he broke that record back in November of 2020. Hubie Brown was the oldest head coach of all time at age 70 and like 11 months. And you saw in November of 2020, Greg Popovich beat that record. We are 3 years away from that. Pop is turning 75 in January. And I just think that it's time, man. It's time for him to retire. Go to the front office, do other things for the Spurs. I'm not saying kick him to the curb and don't offer him a job. Have him be part of the organization. But head coach ain't it, man. And as Mario Cavazos reaches out to us and says, Jimenez, that is just your opinion. Dude, it's just your opinion. That's the thing. It's my opinion. Paul Contu reaches out and says, great seeing you, brother. Nice seeing you too, man. It is my opinion, and I think it's the right opinion. The problem is with a lot of Spurs fans is that I tend to see the elephant in the room, or I at least address it before everyone else does. Like last year, early in the season, I was like, man, that Victor Wembanyama is a badass. That guy is a generational talent. Lots of promise with that guy. Could be the greatest one since LeBron James. And you start reading these stories, and it was out early. People think that Victor Wembanyama became a thing like in April or May. No, that was from the get-go. The year before we were talking about Wemby. Wemby balled out at Summer League against the G League Ignite. Not this past summer, but the summer before. He and Scoot Henderson went toe-to-toe. He had 30-some-odd points. So Wemby being this generational talent was known far in advance. And because of that, even though there was only a 14% chance of getting him, I was an advocate of Team Tank. What did most Spurs fans do when I said that on Twitter all last year? That's just a loser's mentality, right? Going on and saying that that's not the Spurs way. That's not what Pop does. We've never tanked before. And then I come back and go, wait a minute. We tanked for Tim Duncan. No, we didn't. That's revisionist history. No, we didn't. James Pledger from San Antonio Sports Star and I found articles online showing that David Robinson could have come back right around the rodeo road trip, the year that he was benched the entire year because of injury. He was able to come back. They didn't. Why? Because there was a generational talent available in the draft, that being Tim Duncan, and the Spurs won the lottery. Somehow over the Boston Celtics, who had the number 3 and 6 pick overall in that draft. The Spurs tanked back then. And last year, I'm coming out saying, you know what, Spurs should tank. Outright tank. We need a top 2 or 3 pick. We need Wemby. We need Scoot. We need Brandon Miller. We need one of these guys. They should outright tank. And the venom that I got from a lot of Spurs fans, where they were pissed off at me about this. But who was right? Who was right? Team playing. Remember you guys? Team playing. Team we hooping. Remember you guys? Who won this one? Who was right the entire time? I was right the entire time. And I was one of the first. I said, hey, captain of Team Tank, baby. Captain of Team Tank. And I was saying this, and it was so funny because the Spurs, if I'm not mistaken, started out like 5-2. And they're like, no, man, we hooping. I'm like, no, this team sucks. They need a Wemby. And guess what? I was right. So when it comes to Greg Popovich, people come at me and go, hey, well, it's only been 10 or 11 games that Wemby's played. No, this is season number 5 in a row that we're going to have a losing record. If Pop is, quote unquote, the GOAT, how are you in the GOAT conversation overall? He's in the Mount Rushmore. I get it. But how are you in the GOAT conversation overall if you have 5 losing records in a row? Now, last year, the Spurs didn't have any stars, but there was times when the Spurs had DeMar DeRozan. There was times when the Spurs had DeJounte Murray. And if I'm not mistaken, they were either all-stars or former all-stars. He is 75 years old come January. It's time to go, man. He's 9 years older than Tom Landry when Landry was shown the door by Jerry Jones. It is time for him to go. So for me to come out and say that he's like a rotten banana, it's true. It's true. And if you take a look at TNT, if you look at Jeff Garcia's article on Kens5.com, again, follow Jeff Garcia at Jeff G Spurzone on Twitter and on Threads. I follow him on Spotify. Also, I follow him on YouTube as well. Locked on Spurs, which is your daily content when it comes to San Antonio Spurs coverage. He talks about the fact that a TNT commentator named Jared Greenberg, he was a guest on the Awful Announcing podcast when he spoke about interactions with Greg Popovich, who's been the head coach of the Spurs for over 25 years. And he essentially goes on to say that Popovich shouldn't be condescending to the media and that he needs to be called to the carpet. No shit. Should have happened a long time ago. But the thing is that winners get to do what they want to do, right? That shtick that he does, where he's condescending to the media. By the way, FYI, I not only used to have a radio show here in San Antonio, I was a member of the sports media many, many, many years ago, back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I would go to the Alamo Dome. I would go to the AT&T Center, no different, or it was SBC Center, or whatever it was back then, no different than Jeff Garcia does now. And I would do post-game interviews for the Spurs. You know, I would go and do it on behalf of KSAT 12 or of Ken's 5 or whatever the case may be. And was Greg Popovich ever condescending to me? Yes, all the damn time. And think about that. This guy was in his 50s, and I was in my early 20s, and he's being a condescending dick towards me. What kind of grown-ass man does that to a 21-year-old, 22, 23, 24-year-old who is new to the business? The one that kind of would get in the way and would like stop all that was actually Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers was somebody who came up to me and goes, "Dude, I know you're young. I know you're getting used to all this. Just go with it. Just go with it." You know, Doc was actually mean to me on purpose, but when I kept going, he actually applauded me for it. I remember one time I interviewed Pop, and I said, "Hey, Pop, quick question about the bench." And instead of being a fucking professional, do you know what he did? Do you know what he did? He ran to the bench and goes, "Oh, what? You don't like the color? You don't like the style? You don't like the whatever, whatever, whatever." And I'm looking at him going, "Jackass, I'm doing a job over here. Why don't you let me do my job and then you can do your job?" If that was back in 2000, right? Let's subtract 23 years from 74. He was 51 years old and I was 23. And I'm trying to have a professional conversation with this jackass. And he was a condescending asshole to me. At 22 or 23, Pop was a condescending dick towards me. Think about that. How does somebody in their 50s do that? And now he's in his 70s, still pulling the same shit with other 20, 25, 30-year-olds who are making their way into the Frostbank Center. The thing about this is that winners get to do what they want to do. But is Pop a winner? He hasn't fielded a winning team on that court in 5 fucking years. Is he actually a winner anymore? So no. The whole thing is that the NBA does need to rein him in. He does. And the idea of, oh, well, you know, he has 5 rings and all that's great. What have you done for me lately? What have you done for me lately? Bill Simmons on The Ringer, formerly of Grantland and ESPN.com. Maybe I should take his advice. His advice is that sports fans should not bitch about their team if they've won a title within 10 years. All right. When was the Spurs' last title? 2014? It's coming up on 10 years. That is right. It's been 10 years. It feels for a lot of Spurs fans like it was 2 or 3 years ago, right? It feels like it was 2, 3, 4 years ago that we were beating the Heat, 2013, comeback, beautiful game of 20. For a lot of Spurs fans, it feels like it's been 2 or 3 years, but it's been 9. It's been 9 freaking years. It's been 5 years since the Spurs have had a winning team. Dude, there are kindergartners right now who are getting ready for school, who are in school right now, who don't know what it's like for the Spurs to have a winning record. It's been that long. Pop is a condescending jackass. He is, but he got away with it and was allowed to get away with it. Even I was okay with him getting away with it when he was winning titles. But if you're not winning titles and you are the head coach of a team that's 3-8, you don't get to do that. Why is that so bizarre for people to understand? You can't say that, oh, well, he's just being a cranky old man. No, he was that dick when he was in his early 50s. Doing that to a 21-year-old Michael Jimenez, who was just trying to do his job, who was in college. Good God, man. The guy's not like God. The guy's just a coach, and coaches are hired to be fired. Should have happened 5 years ago. In fact, he shouldn't have been fired. Remember when he said that he was going to stay as long as Tim, Tony, and Manu do? And what happened? Tim retired. Parker went to Charlotte. Manu retired. And he looked around. He was like, well, we got Kawhi. Maybe I can redo Kawhi. And Kawhi did Kawhi things, Uncle Dennis and all that stuff. And then what? You know, how did he do with that? Did he handle that situation very well? You know, we all put this on Kawhi Leonard. And by the way, I'm not going to have revisionist history where I go back and say that the whole Kawhi Leonard thing, that we should have kept him. Because in retrospect, as injured as that guy is all the time, he would have, it wouldn't have been a good situation either way. But we wouldn't have known that necessarily back then, right? When he was hiding in New York, away from the Spurs and all that stuff. Did Pop handle that situation correctly or not? What is Pop's, I don't know, personality when it comes to these players, free agents? Why don't they want to come play with him? If he's an all-time great, why don't people want to play for Pop unless it's in like an Olympic setting? I don't want to hear about San Antonio being a small market. That might be part of the reason why. But could it be because he's a dick? Could it be that free agents don't want to come to San Antonio because they don't allow them to be themselves? Danny Green was a completely different person the second he left San Antonio, and that doesn't make him a worse person. It just means that he was not allowed to be himself. Players realize that social media is such a big part of their brand and who they are and of their age, and some 75-year-old man's going to tell them to turn TikTok off. I'd call him a boomer, but he's older than the boomers. Good God, man. It's time to go. It's time to go. Hanover Fist says Spurs don't pay free agents. No, the Spurs have the same ability to pay everybody else. And right now, you need to pay up to 90% of the salary cap every single year, or you don't get your part of the luxury tax. The Spurs are forced to spend money. They just refuse to look at Fred VanVleet and go, you know what, I'm going to sign that guy. He's only an all-star who's young, who might make our team better. You know what we're going to do? We're going to have Jeremy Sohan go out there with no mentor, who's never run the point before, and we're going to have him with like no mentor, no other veteran player who can help him through the ropes. No, we're not going to do that. No, we're good. We're good. Hey, look, we have this generational talent named Victor Wembanyama. You know, he's considered to be the greatest talent to come in since LeBron James over 20 years ago. You know who we're going to get him as a mentor? Nobody. That's what they did. That is what they did. And the head of the snake is Pop. Brian Wright, the hologram, might be the general manager. Buford and all of those guys who are owners and the Holt family and president of this, that, and the other. It's Pop. The problem's Pop. You don't think that Pop's not the boss in that building? That he actually has somebody above him? The only person above him is the owner. I bet you Pop can go tell R.C. Buford to go kiss his ass. I bet you can tell Brian Wright to go do that. I'm not saying that he does, but I'm saying he probably could. Good God, man. The problem's Pop. It's time for him to go. It was time 5 years ago. Again, not only the oldest coach in the NBA right now, he broke that record of all-time oldest head coach back in November of 2020. We've had a pandemic since then and gotten out of the pandemic. It's been that long. That's when he broke the record, when they were in the bubble. Oh my God. And then so for the Current to put me on blast on all that, I find it to be hysterical because I enjoyed it. That's great. I don't care if people like me or not. Okay. There are a select few people in this world that I really care about their opinion. And there's only about maybe 10, 12 of those people in my life. Right. And if you become one of them, that is sacred to me. So when people say, "Oh, you're getting cooked on social media, Michael, you're a jackass," or blah blah blah, and this is why people don't like you, and this is why your wife left you, and this is why blah 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 blah. I don't care. I don't care. I'm a good person. I'm a good dad. I'm actually a good person. People who meet me out and about, who say that they don't like me, spend 5 minutes with me, and suddenly like me. I am the Bill Clinton of sports here in San Antonio because even if you don't like me, 5 minutes of meeting me, you'll like me a lot. Okay. Who was it? Dwight Yoakam? You don't know me if you don't like me. That's the thing. But I can have strong takes about the Spurs because I'm passionate about the Spurs. I grew up with posters of Alvin Robertson, Gene Banks, and Mike Mitchell in my room. I was out at the Hemisphere Arena with my dad watching the top of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's bald head going up and down the court. Dude, I was there. Who was the last player to make a shot at Hemisphere Arena? Trivia question. Someone type it in the chat. Who was the last player? Because I was there when that person knocked it down. The person who made the last shot at the Hemisphere Arena was Charles Barkley in the playoffs against the Spurs against the Suns. And I'll never forget, 1-point game. And I remember Barkley coming out with the eye of the tiger. Man, he just looked on fire, like he was just going to eat somebody alive. And David Robinson looking like a deer in headlights. They showed it on the Jumbotron. I remember looking at my dad going, "We're not going to win this game." And I don't know if it was tied or a 1-point game, but either way, Robinson was guarding Barkley. Barkley at 6'3", 6'4". Robinson at 7 foot. Top of the key. Step back. Knocked it down from 20. Game over. Hemisphere Arena over. I was at that game. I was also at the game with the last Spurs home game before they won the 99 finals against the Knicks. I was there, man, all hugging people, hugging strangers. I've been through it all, man. And I'm frustrated like a lot of Spurs fans right now because we're not used to the Spurs losing like this. Are we like children right now who are coddled because we had year after year after year of 50-win seasons? Is that what it is? Because from the years 1990 all the way through 2018, it was nothing but win. And when we didn't win, when Robinson went down, we won Duncan. It was just win, baby. 50 wins every year. We're a contender, a top seed. Now we're 5 years removed from that. We're actually about 7 years removed from that, but we're 5 years removed. And did this all change when Duncan left? Did it all change when Kawhi landed on Zaza Pachulia's foot? Is that what happened? I'm frustrated as a Spurs fan. I'm like super frustrated. I'm frustrated because I fear that the old guard does not work for new players. I fear that the old guard is not only getting it wrong on the court, but the old guard's getting it wrong off the court as well. And that starts with Pop. Pop is a Hall of Famer, obviously. It's not he's a future Hall of Famer. He is one right now. Got inducted earlier this year at the Naismith, right? That was well-deserved and earned. But at some point, it's time to step aside. At some point, it's time to pass the torch. Dude, not to get into politics, man, but I am a 46-year-old man, and I am effing offended that the choices for president right now are Biden and Trump. I don't want an 80-some-odd-year-old president. I don't care if it's Democrat, Republican. It is insulting to the generations of Gen X. It's insulting to millennials, to Gen Z, and everybody else Go away. Those in power who are 75 years old and older, go away. You've had your day in the sun. I don't care if it's the corporate world. I don't care if it's politics. I don't care if it's anything. If you are 75 years old, it is time to retire. And in sports, dude, the only coaches right now that I know of that are older than 70 and that are head coaches, what, Pete Carroll? Pete Carroll and Pop. I will say this, though, both look like they could run a nice half marathon. They both look at least a 5 or a 10K. At least. Oh, my goodness, man. All right, let's see what some of these comments are right now here on our YouTube chat line. Locked on Spurs, that's Jeff Garcia saying MJ going off. Was I going off? Was that what that was? Was that a rant? I kind of felt like I was on the therapy couch there a little bit as a Spurs fan. I really did. Chris Gonzalez says Pop missed the moment after winning the 2014 title. He was sitting on the bench. That should have been the moment. Dude, David Robinson did the same in 2003, didn't he? Right? You win that title. You go off a champion. That is the statement. You stick the landing, you put your hands up, and you get perfect scores across the board, right? Basically, if Pop was a gymnast, he would have done a perfect floor routine. And then when he's doing a flip to end it, fell. 5 losing seasons. And they say this is going to be a process and he might be a coach for another 2 or 3 years. Imagine if he goes from having 5 titles to 7 or 8 losing records in a row. That conversation about him being the GOAT would not exist. Matt Lambert reaches out and says, Jimenez unchecked and unleashed. Pete Aguilar with the fire emojis. Joe Gonzalez reaches out and says, Coach Hammond needs to walk through those doors. Her music needs to be queued up. No, because what the Spurs are going to do, they're going to hire somebody who's 60. Spurs way, baby. Spurs way. So old. Mario Cavazos reaches out and says, I hope Pop stays until he's 99 now, and we'll have 10 rows of coach interns learning from the OG. Jonathan C. says, I can vouch Jimenez is a great guy, terrible singer. Dude, you caught me on the worst day. Dude, okay, Goldilocks zone, not too sober, not too drunk. That's the perfect time to karaoke. I went up there, John C., and I was already drunk already. Charlie Hernandez, Jimenez throwing heat today. Mike Baez, you're a good dude. Had a pleasure of having drinks with you, Hefe, and Pledge at the Rube that one night. That was fun times, man. That was fun times. Tex-Mex Frank says, Bill Clinton of San Antonio, great take. You know, there's the reason why I say the Bill Clinton aspect of it all is because I remember seeing an interview with George W. Bush. Bush won the White House, defeating Gore in 2000, became president in 2001, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a tough battle because it was one of those things about they were going after Bill Clinton because of the Monica Lewinsky thing and the scandal. Even though he wasn't on the ballot, he kind of was on the ballot in a way. No different than Obama was on the ballot in 2016 when Trump went after Obama, even though Hillary was the opponent. But they were talking about, George W. Bush did this interview one time where he was talking about how he had never really met Bill Clinton before. And one of the things that they do as presidents, although Trump did break precedent because he refused to do this, is that if you are president of the United States, you are supposed to write a letter congratulating the next president, and you're also supposed to give them a tour of the White House. That's kind of a thing that's been going on for 200 years. And George W. Bush knew that Clinton would be doing this with him. And he thought to himself, he said in the interview that he was going to be kind of just standoffish, kind of like not want to give into his charm. And what ended up happening was within 5 minutes, Clinton apparently had George W. Bush, his wife, Laura, all the daughters, Jenna and Barbara and all them, had them in stitches just laughing and laughing and laughing. And that George W. Bush said, I cannot believe he got me. And they're friends now, apparently, because I cannot believe that they got me. Because I was taught to hate this guy because it's opposite of what I believe, opposite of what I think. I'm supposed to hate this guy. And that's the thing about me is that, again, I go back to that line, Streets of Bakersfield. You don't know me if you don't like me. because I'm not a dick. I really am not. I'm just a passionate sports fan with strong opinions about it. And I happen to have a platform by which to do it, thanks to Joe Garcia. And prior to that, thanks to San Antonio Sports Star and all that stuff. I don't look for attention. I really don't. In fact, this whole tirade that I was going on right now about Popovich was not planned, was not scripted. I have no notes in front of me. I have nothing in front of me. I just got going. And that just shows that I'm just a passionate Spurs fan. And the thing about passionate Spurs fans is that just because I disagree with you or you don't agree with me doesn't make me any less of a Spurs fan. People coming out and saying, especially when I was on Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia, coming out and saying, well, no one's telling you to be a Spurs fan. Fuck you, man. I get to have my opinion, no different. We're not a Spurs fandom, Spurs Twitter, where it's like, oh, well, we all have to think the same. We all have to slurp Greg Popovich, right? We all have to do that. We all have to believe that Jeremy Sohan's going to be a future All-Star. We all have to believe that this, that, and the other. No, we don't. No, we don't. As much as I criticize Cowboy fans because of the, we damn boys and this is our year and all that crap that I've been hearing since Boys to Men was number one. By the way, trivia question. What was the number one song the day the Cowboys won their last Super Bowl? It was End of the Road by Boys to Men. It's been that long since they won a Super Bowl. Been that long since they've been to the conference championship game as well. But I will say this about Cowboy fans. They're not afraid to criticize Jerry Jones. They're not afraid to criticize Mike McCarthy or Dak Prescott. They're not afraid to criticize their own. Okay? That is a healthy fan base goes after their own, right? Because maybe it lights a fire up their ass or something, right? Why is it that Spurs fans are so freaking sensitive when it comes to things? Why? Why are you so sensitive? If I have an opinion about Jeremy Sohan and it's contrary to yours, why am I not just a Spurs fan who disagrees? Why am I a dick? Why? Answer me that, Spurs fans. I don't get it. I absolutely don't get it. We can disagree. We can agree to disagree. And at the end of the day, cheer for the Spurs because half of you last year disagreed with me that the Spurs should tank. But that tanking got Victor Wembanyama. So instead of saying that maybe I'm wrong all the time, just say that maybe Jimenez might be right from time to time. And maybe, just maybe, I'm right about Greg Popovich being wrong for this. Not all coaches are right for a rebuild, dude. I don't care if you're the GOAT or not. Phil Jackson couldn't turn this team around. Pat Riley couldn't turn this team around. You know who could? Eric Spoelstra. Do you know who could? Ime Udoka, Mike Budenholzer, Becky Hammond. There are some coaches who are designed for rebuilds, for projects. There are other coaches that are designed to make good teams great. The problem with the Spurs is that they're not a good team. So Pop's useless. To take a bad team to good, that's a different skill set. Okay? Right now, watching Pop try to coach this team is trying to watch. It's like watching somebody try to eat cereal with a knife, with a fork. Well, what we really need is a spoon. Oh my God, I'm going to say that I need a spoon, and that's going to be tweeted out there. Going into some of your comments there on YouTube right now. Jonathan C. saying, I want the guy that can get me $1.40 gas per gallon. There's no president that can do that. That's economics, baby. That's economics. Who's going to the UTSA game tonight? Courtney is asking David Atwater. Let's talk about that. As I mentioned, the Spurs, the city of San Antonio is on fire when it comes to ESPN today because 6:30 tip-off, you've got Sacramento against the Spurs. Here at the Frost Bank Center, Spurs trying to break their long losing streak there. And then at 8 o'clock, South Florida at UTSA. They're playing at the Alamo Dome. And everyone's going to be looking at Jeff Traylor like, so you staying or going? You staying or going? And I am not trying to piss off UTSA fan. Do I have to go get my degree? My degree says University of Texas at San Antonio. Do I need to go get it? Okay, because if you disagree with me, Again, agree to disagree. This doesn't make me a jerk. I hope Jeff Traylor gets that job at A&M. I hope he does, for him and for his family. That is a great opportunity for him. And the fact that he's even being considered elevates his profile. It shows that he's worthy of a Power 5 job. And the UTSA Roadrunners are in the American Athletic Conference, which is just one level below the Power 5, right? So we went from Sun Belt to Conference USA, then we went from Conference USA to the AAC. Those are big steps for this program to make, especially considering the fact that UTSA football is not even 15 years old. But a Power 5 job, no matter where it is, is bigger and better than UTSA. Think about it this way. Who would have thought that Deion Sanders was going to be the head coach of Colorado? I mean, what about the state of Colorado screams Neon Deion? Nothing. And for a lot of sports fans last year coming out and saying, you know what, Deion should really hold out for that Florida State gig, his alma mater. He should hold out for an SEC school. No. There's 55, 60 Power 5 schools? You take a Power 5 job if it is ready to go, especially for African American. And that's why Deion went and left the HBCU to go to Boulder to go be with the Colorado Buffaloes. If Jeff Traylor's offered the A&M job, he's not only going to take it, he's going to take it in the blink of an eye, and he's not going to look back. And I'm hopeful that he gets it, because a couple of things. It elevates the fact that his stature, knowing that he's even being considered. He's one of 5 or 6 people that are being interviewed. Reportedly, his interview was supposed to be 30 minutes by Zoom, and it lasted 90 minutes. I'm sorry, but if you have a conversation with somebody longer than expected, especially if it's a quote-unquote first date, that's a good first date. I look at Jeff Traylor and what he's done for this program. He's elevated this program to a higher level, but he's going to be making 6, 7, 8 times as much over at A&M. And I've been reading the A&M boards. They're like, no, it's not a big name, but that's the problem. Every time A&M tries to get a head coach, they go for the big name. That's why Jimbo Fisher was over there. And you can't tell me that Jimbo necessarily was the best fit for that particular program. Sometimes it's not. But a lot of people are like, well, UTSA's coach? Understand that Jeff Traylor, with his high school days at Gilmore and with UTSA and what he has done here, and the fact that they're undefeated in conference right now, that they've gone to multiple bowl games, that is a big deal. And the name of the game in college football is recruiting. And where does he recruit the best? That triangle that is Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. And where is A&M? In that triangle between Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. They're in that triangle. And he can also extend out to East Texas and even to Louisiana. Dude, that would be a good fit for A&M. It's not going to be a sexy pick, and a lot of Aggie fans will be like, who is this guy? Who is this UTSA program? What are you talking about? It's not the name of a Lane Kiffin. It's not the name of a Harbaugh or whoever else they're considering. They're not considering a Harbaugh, but Lane Kiffin reportedly is part of that mix. But it'd be a good thing. But what would it do for UTSA? UTSA at that point would have to go off and get themselves a head coach. And there's one that people are talking about that is local. And then there's also one that people are talking about that is, how should I say it? A blast from the past when it comes to UTSA. I tweeted yesterday, if Jeff Traylor leaves UTSA, we'd have to go after GJ Kinney, right? And people are saying, no, Will Stein. So Will Stein, for those of you who don't know, Will Stein was part of Traylor's staff over there at UTSA. But Will Stein right now is over at Oregon as the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. And Oregon is one of the top 10 teams in college football right now. I mean, they're a very, very good program. He's 34 years old, so I mean, it's a young man. But there's another young man that's available, that could be available, up the street in San Marcos. Think about that. UTSA is arguably one of their biggest local rivals, being Texas State. GJ Kinney led Incarnate Word deep into the playoffs last year, went over to Texas State, took a crappy-ass Texas State team into bowl eligibility this year. They're a winning team this year. GJ Kinney has ties to San Antonio, has ties to the family of head coach Jeff Traylor. That guy is a mercenary, man. That guy is a coaching mercenary. He's going to go wherever it takes for him to be successful, and he wants to climb the corporate ladder, and the next step on that corporate ladder could be UTSA. I would love for GJ Kinney to be the head coach there. But if we're going to go after the Oregon offensive coordinator, I get that too, because he's been part of the program, and a lot of the players that he recruited are already here. They might be juniors and seniors next year. That would be a good pick as well. But think about that. That means that this position is elevated as well. For those fans out there who are saying, but Traylor said 10 years and he got that raise from Lisa Campos and all that stuff. I get it. But it's a business, man. It's a business. This isn't like the NBA or the NFL where you're not going to go from the Jets to the Cowboys midstream, right? Unless there's a trade, right? I mean, heck, even Sean Payton had to be traded from the Saints to the Broncos. Broncos had to give up compensation because he was still under contract. In college, you can bail because there are provisions within your contract that allow you to bail. If that provision did not exist in Traylor's contract, he wouldn't have been able to have interviewed yesterday. So I'm sure that thing said, hey, Power 5 job opens up. I want to be able to take it. And there's a reason why that provision's there. I know in his heart of hearts, he probably would want to stay here for 10 years, but there are certain job opportunities that you cannot pass up. And it's the SEC, for crying out loud. It's all that money. Dude, Texas A&M is doling out over $70 million to Jimbo Fisher to not do his job, just to get rid of him. And they're going to pay a new guy in there, $10 million a year tops, or a little bit more than that maybe, to come on in and take that position. This would be a great thing for Jeff Traylor. I'm hopeful that he gets that gig. Let's go back and see some of the stream going on over here. Unfortunately, I'm not able to kind of post it on there. Carlos Castillo says, go for it, Skip. Mario Cavazos is a really good point. Everybody trying to be George Jefferson and moving on up. Jeff Traylor can be moving up to the SEC and to A&M. And this isn't a lower tier school. This isn't Vanderbilt. I mean, Vanderbilt's a great institution, right? It's higher learning. It's the Harvard of the South, if you will. But when it comes to not necessarily when it comes to football, he is going to A&M, a storied franchise, if he does go in that direction, if they offer him that job. Okay. But it is moving on up. MV reaches out and says, the thing with Stein is, would he leave Oregon in the midst of a national championship run? If Oregon keeps winning, I don't see him leaving unless UTSA can wait till mid-January. It doesn't happen that way, man. In fact, if Traylor is offered this job, he'd be gone before the Bowls. He wouldn't coach in the Bowl. He probably wouldn't even coach in any conference championship type of setting. That's the deal. Because recruiting starts early on in January, you need to have your staff in place. Not just the head coach, but the staff needs to be in place. And in fact, A&M has said that they want a staff in place by the first week of December. That'd be before the bowl games. Tim Gonzalez says, for example, if Jimenez was coach of UTSA and got interviewed by the Aggies, he would definitely take the job. That is true. Chris Gonzalez reaches out and says, if Jeff Traylor did not take the interview, I would have been pissed. Jacob Eric says, if Traylor leaves, San Antonio just needs to give him his flowers. That's true. He has done a lot for UTSA's program. And don't get me wrong, worst case scenario, he's the head coach of UTSA, and he's done a fantastic job over here. But my goodness, what would that say about UTSA's program if Texas A&M took our head coach? It would show how good our program is and be so attractive to other coaches to come to San Antonio. UTSA needs to spend more money, though. Needs to spend more money. Charlie Hernandez reaches out and says, Coach Traylor would be a great fit for A&M. Traylor has had a big impact on UTSA athletic upgrades. Not enough upgrades, but it's a lot better than what it has been before. Have you been on UTSA's campus? I mean, it is crazy that UTSA's campus has grown so much. I go on campus. I'm an alum. I go on campus every 2 or 3 years for one reason or another. And every time I go, I don't recognize it. I'm like, man, look at all these new restaurants. Look at all these new buildings. Look at all these new facilities and the athletic complex and all that stuff. It's a legit school, man. It's still a bit of a commuter school, but not as much as it used to be. Nowhere near what it used to be. And then you see all the new housing going up for the students and whatnot. It's becoming a legit destination spot for a lot of students. And it's exciting to see. It really is exciting to see. Again, UTSA takes on South Florida today at the Alamo Dome, an 8 p.m. kickoff. And then next week, we've got that big game for UTSA taking on Tulane. It's a Friday afternoon game on ABC, nationally televised on ABC. And that could determine who is the conference champion for the AAC, because Tulane is undefeated. The weird thing about Tulane is that they win close games every week. The margin of victory that they have right now is so low. They seem to be winning games by 3 and 6 points every single week, and they're nationally ranked in the top 25 right now, according to the AP, and they might be in line for a New Year's Day type of bowl, because they might be ranked high enough as a non-Power 5 to get that bid. But again, UTSA can take them out. That's what I'm excited for right now. Again, that game is going to be over at the Alamo Dome, an 8 p.m. tip-off, and I'm looking to see what the spread is on that. That's what I'm interested in right now. Do I want to make a wager? UTSA favored by 15.5 points. That's an odd spread. 15.5. UTSA coming in at 7-3, undefeated though in the AAC. South Florida coming in with a 500 record at 5-5. Taking a look, man, South Florida actually played within 14 points of Alabama on September 14th. Most recently, they beat Temple 27-23, and they lost a game. Check out this score to Memphis, 59-50 2 weeks ago. Jonathan C. says UTSA opened up as an 18.5-point favorite. Now it's down to 15.5. So it's like moving towards, like, I guess the smart money is moving towards South Florida. UTSA should win this game, though. Doesn't mean that they have to win by 15.5, but that's what Vegas is saying right now. I am excited for San Antonio today because, again, ESPN is, basically parked out here. ESPN and ESPN2, ESPN2 for the UTSA game, ESPN for the Spurs game. I wonder, all those nationally televised games that we have because of Victor Wembanyama, do you think that some of those might go away if the Spurs continuously lose and look bad? I mean, I know that there's that star factor of having Wemby out there, and people have a curiosity factor of it all. But if they keep losing, like the other day when they were nationally televised and they went to a different game instead, like Spurs are losing by 35 points, let's go ahead and call up another game for a few minutes. Do you think the Spurs would lose some of their nationally televised games? Is that even possible? It's like the NFL when they flex. Is that possible? Will the NBA come out and go, yeah, we don't want to play that game. We don't want to show Memphis against the Spurs. We don't want to do any of that. GM97 reaches out and says, buy or sell Wemby getting a triple-double tonight out of frustration. I hope so. Who are we tanking today with? Who's sitting out this game? We've had Devin Vassell out because of quote-unquote injuries. We've had Sohan, being probable, he has an illness or whatever the case may be. The Spurs tend to be sitting people out. Again, tonight, I believe it's Vassell that's out. MV reached out saying Vassell. I read that earlier today, so no Devin Vassell. And you know how the Spurs look without Devin Vassell. Like trash. Okay? I'm sorry. Sometimes they look like trash with Devin Vassell. They look like hot garbage or a dumpster fire when he's not there. And then, as MV points out, Trey Jones is also likely to be missing this game as well. He's missed the past few games. It's been very, very devastating. Let's take a look right now at what's going on in college football, because we're getting down to that stretch right now where these games all matter, man. We're seeing the playoff rankings coming out. Some big games in the top 25. Michigan without their head coach Harbaugh, who's a big time cheater, on the road taking on Maryland, a 6-4 team. Let's see if Maryland can take them out. Bama's hosting Chattanooga. Not sure why, but they are. Chattanooga at least is 7-3. That's going to be an ESPN Plus game. Louisville at Miami. Rutgers at Penn State. UL Monroe against Ole Miss. OU against BYU. Tulane on the road against Florida Atlantic. Tulane favored by 9 points in that game. We've got two ranked teams, Utah at Arizona. Georgia at Tennessee. That's a 1-16 matchup there. Tennessee coming in at 7-3. Georgia favored by 10 points. Illinois at Iowa. We got Wake Forest at Notre Dame. Not a lot of good games. We have Carolina and Clemson. Minnesota at Ohio State. The rivalry week games typically are the week of Thanksgiving. So that's a lot of these seems to be kind of setups for them. But we do have a big game in the Pac-12. We've got Washington at number 5 taking on number 11 Oregon State. That's going to be on ABC at 6:30. And your Texas Longhorns, baby. Texas is back. Tough game this weekend at Iowa State. Iowa State is 6-4. UT favored by 7.5. The storyline saying that Quinn Ewers might be back for that one. That'd be interesting. The open, though, was Texas by 9, so the spread is moving to 7.5. Look at that over-under at 46.5. Tasty. That is tasty. I'll take the over on that one. Thank you very much. As far as what the Iowa State Cyclones have done, most recently, they beat BYU 45-13 last week, lost to Kansas 28-21, beat Baylor the week before that, beat Cincinnati the week before that, beat TCU the week before that. So they're coming in. Iowa State kind of on a roll right now. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Josh Jimenez reaches out and says other teams are going to get flexed into the nationally televised games. Why show the Spurs sucking? You could watch a better game at your local LA Fitness instead of crap basketball Spurs are playing. Chris Gonzalez says SE teams will have an easy matchup this week because they have the rival games next week. That's right. GM97 asking if Malachi and Graham are going to Devontae are going to be point guards. That would be interesting. Malachi's my son. And I like Devontae Graham. Going to be honest with you, I kind of do. But Malachi is somebody that I have high hopes for. We're seeing that City Sissoko might be recalled. And if that's the case, that would be pretty good because I don't think he's going to run a lot of minutes. But, dude, I like CD. I think that's going to be a project that might pay dividends for the Spurs. Hey, let's give some love to MCS General Contracting. MCS General Contracting, we like to say it all the time. They are rock hard, diamond hard, baby, when it comes to their concrete placement. So if you need a slab for your home or business, concrete for your parking lot, for a patio, build a basketball court, go to MCS General Contracting, get a quote from them, get it done right. Get it done right. Chris Leha is a sponsor of our show. His number is 210-774-9155. Again, 774-9155. Thank you to Chris Leha. Thank you to MCS General Contracting for being a sponsor of this show from the very, very beginning. So they do a really good job. And I've had him out here to take a look at my concrete as well. So my patio. So they'll be doing some work over here pretty soon. And it's the right weather for them, man, because dude, I'm sure that they were tired of doing concrete at 105-degree weather, but now when it's in its 60s and 70s, this is perfect weather for them to be outdoors doing their thing. Hanover Fist reaches out and says, Sohan is a 6'9" City Sissoko. That made my day right there. That's a good one. I don't know if that's a compliment or not. That's why I'm laughing at that. That's so much fun. Let's talk about the NFL because the NFL, I'm so excited for the Houston Texans. This is a good time to be a Houston Texans fan. They're taking on the Arizona Cardinals this weekend, a 12 o'clock kickoff. Texans favored by 6 points. coming in at 5-4, and all this talk about CJ Stroud being an MVP candidate, and damn straight he should be considered such. He's going to be Rookie of the Year. He's going to be a Pro Bowler. But CJ Stroud is playing out of his mind these days. And I'm not just saying like from a fantasy perspective. I'm just talking about as a football player perspective. It is very possible that CJ Stroud is already a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, maybe even a top 8. The two hottest quarterbacks right now in the NFL, state of Texas, CJ Stroud and Dak Prescott. And if the Texans can win this game and go 6-4, and then next week beat Jacksonville, who they've already destroyed this year, and go 7-4, they'd be in first place and control their destiny to winning the division. And I think it's not only possible, but it's probable that that's going to happen. This is a team that's fired on all cylinders, offensively, defensively, and CJ Stroud right now is so clutch. And even bouncing back from that near pick six that he had, and it looked like he was throwing the game away, and for him to bring that team back and get the game-winning field goal. And I know Tyler Boyd missed that catch in the end zone, and it could have been a loss anyway, but it didn't happen that way. You gave CJ Stroud the opportunity, and he took that opportunity and went with it. That's exciting to see. That is a very, very good quarterback in the MVP race right now, even though he's only a rookie. Also in the MVP race is Dak Prescott. And wow, they got the Panthers. Again, here's the thing. Cowboys, what do? They beat up on the bad teams and they lose to winning teams. That's just what they do. So this week, I expect them to beat the living shit out of the Carolina Panthers, even though they're on the road in Carolina and even though they're playing on grass. The Cowboys play like trash on grass. You see them lose to teams like the 49ers and the Eagles when they play on grass, right? But this is a bad, bad Carolina team with an awful offensive line, with a quarterback that can't even see over the line. This is going to be a victory. They'll get it on grass. I don't think it's going to be close. I think the Cowboys win this game by at least 17 to 20 points, at least. And then the Eagles, though, Monday Night Football, we'll be talking about this on Monday, on the road against the Chiefs, the Kelsey Bowl. The Kelsey Bowl, Jason Kelsey versus Travis Kelsey. No word if Taylor Swift's going to be there, but a lot of people aren't excited about that. A little bit tired of Taylor Swift. But one thing I will say, though, I don't know if you noticed this, but on iTunes right now, the number one song on iTunes is a song that is sung by Jason Kelsey and Travis Kelsey. And they're saying that it's incredibly humbling. And I don't know if you've heard this song. It's actually pretty good. It's actually pretty good. I'm not a big fan of Christmas music. Really not. But the Travis Kelsey, Jason Kelsey has like a baritone voice. And Travis Kelsey sings like a Disney prince. Who would have thought? And they're singing this Christmas song. And even the left tackle who was on one of those NBC singing contests, I forgot the one that he was on, is an excellent singer. And it's so cool to see, man. It's so cool to see. I would encourage you guys to look up that song. It's for charitable purposes as well. But the Kelsey brothers, Jason Kelsey, Travis Kelsey, singing what's called a Philly Special Christmas. And it also features other Philadelphia linemen. I know you might not be a fan of the Eagles, but it's a great song nonetheless. And if there's charity involved, there's charity involved, and I'm all about it. All about it. It is Friday afternoon. And, you know, it's funny because I was at my daughter's dentist earlier today. And I took her because it was time for her to get her checkup done and all that stuff. She has braces and whatnot. And they were asking the question, what are you thankful for this year? And what they were doing was taking a leaf, like it's like a cardboard leaf or whatever, and they asked you what you were thankful for this year. And they would write it down, they put it on the wall. It was like a project that they were doing over there. And it kind of caught me off guard because this has been like the worst year for me ever. And you know, my marriage went kaput, right? So I got separated, lost my radio gig due to budget cuts. Not because I did bad takes. It was a budget cut move. Um, my dog died. What my favorite dog died. I still have three others, but the one that loved me the most died. My business partner up and left. He got a job elsewhere. And it's been a very difficult week. So it was weird when they asked me the question, well, what are you thankful for? And what I would say is this: I'm thankful for family. I'm thankful for my kids. I've been spending a lot more time with my kids when I can, a lot more quality time with them because I don't see them 7 days a week anymore. I see them maybe 3 days a week, and I want to spend more quality time with them. Thankful for being able to spend more time with my family. The friends who have stepped up. Jeff Garcia from Locked On Spurs, Ken's Five, has been a really good friend of mine the past few years, but he has stepped up this year. Um, my business is as successful as it's ever been, and it's a blessing that happened. It's like I needed to have a win, and my business has shot up like a rocket, and it's so good. It's so good. But I got caught off guard. I'm making new friends. I'm not in a bad spot anymore. I was in a bad spot a few months ago, which is why I stopped doing the podcast. I mean, my head was not in it at all. But I will say this: I am thankful for each and every day, and thankful for the opportunity to kind of still do this. And this is an outlet for me, and I'm thankful for Joe Garcia for producing this show and still doing what he's doing. And I'm thankful for any listeners and followers, and I'm thankful for Jeff, and I'm thankful for Pledger. And people ask me the question about the radio show, like, do you miss being on radio? I really don't. I was angry. I was upset and hurt when I got let go, but I am not upset anymore. It was the best thing that could have happened to me at the time. I didn't know it at the time, but it was the best thing that could have happened. And on top of that, um, I find it more freeing to do the podcast. It doesn't take as much time. I get to concentrate on my business more. I get to pick up my kids from school. I'm in a good spot, man. I'm in a good spot. I still have a lot of blessings, even though things didn't go my way this year. And I will say this though: Thanksgiving's coming up next week. Don't know how much how much of a podcast we'll do. So I'm kind of doing a Thanksgiving thing right now. Um, if things are going right, count your blessings. And if you know people who are going through tough times, the holidays might actually be a very, very rough time for them. Reach out to them and ask how they're doing, and just make sure that they're okay and at least enjoying the holidays a bit. This is going to be the first holidays since my separation and more than likely divorce next year. Um, it's going to be difficult, but my daughter Gabby's here. She's here. She's graduated from LSU in 4 weeks, and I'm super excited about that. And people are asking me, well, how do you feel about the separation and divorce now and all that stuff? And does it make you sad and all that stuff? I am less sad by the day. And I have come to the conclusion uh, that if people don't want to be in your life, hell with them. You know, just be with the people who love you back. Life's too short to life is too short to hang out with people who don't like you. Or when I'm not talking about my soon-to-be ex-wife, I'm talking about people in general. I think that one of the things I did good this year was I cut out a lot of crap in my life. I cut out a lot of people in my life, and I've really focused on a handful of people. And I've had people who've stepped up that I hadn't seen in a long time. My friend Alex and my friend Sean and my friend Richard and Jeff Garcia and Pledger and Minix and all Ryan Eagle. All these guys have Rudy J have all uh, kind of come up around me, and I have other friends that will remain nameless for a variety of different reasons that just have kind of um, helped me kind of get over what I'm going through. and I'm in a better place more and more by the day. Because of all that, and because of all the crap that I've gone through, do you think I really give a damn if I'm getting cooked on Twitter? Do you think I really give a damn that some Spurs fans don't like me, or some Houston Texans fans might like me or not like me, or Cowboy fans might not like me, or my position about Pop? I don't care. I don't care. But if you do see me out and about, come say hi. I'm not a jackass. I'm not a dick. I'll be a good guy. I'll be a nice guy. Okay. So I'm excited. I'm looking right now at my phone right now. My friend Eric is reaching out. I hadn't seen Eric in so long, and he and I reconnected a couple of weeks ago. That's awesome. It's awesome. One of the best things I did this year, by the way, was I reached out to people who I had wronged, in the sense that I'd gotten into arguments with, whether I was right or wrong or somewhere in the middle. I reached out to say that I was sorry, and it was very therapeutic. And I got to reconnect with people. It was badass. Badass. This has been fun. Lots of people reaching out and saying, LOL, who gives a F? That is true. GM97 says, we cannot develop. Let me see, what did he say? We cannot develop. We cannot, if we don't test our boundaries, whether it's by chance or by choice. GM97 also says, sorry to hear, Mike. Stay strong, Mr. Spicy Take. Just trying, just living. Blessed to wake up another day, baby. Blessed to make another day. Just focus on the victories, man. Focus on the wins. Josh Jimenez says, and by the way, no relation. I got to say that every time I say his name. He says, I'm thankful for you, Mike. Because of you, I started listening to San Antonio radio. It's been a true bright spot to listen to the show. Have a great Thanksgiving. Thanks. He's thankful for his little daughter, too. That's awesome. That's awesome. I don't know what our schedule is going to be like next week. I don't know if we're doing shows next week. I got to talk to Joe about that. But if I don't hear from you guys, don't see you guys, happy Thanksgiving. Hug the ones you love the ones you love, and just make sure that you're good people. And it's okay to be spicy on Twitter. It's just fun, dude. It's just fun. Everyone have a great weekend. I'll see you guys, and happy Thanksgiving.